Greetings! Today I have a little piece of electronics. So what it is, what you're looking at is the insides of uh, passive infrared PIR sensor, and this has suffered a catastrophic failure. Basically someone got medieval with it, and the whole thing had to be replaced. This was being disposed of, and I thought, let me have a look at this, because I've never seen one of those in detail, at least the detail that I'm about to attempt to have a look at it. Um, so what it is, this basically sits in your little plastic cover with a Fresnel lens on the front, and it detects changes in the infrared emission in the field of its view. And if it detects anything, this is basically connected to an alarm system through some wires. There's through the terminal block, and that basically sets off the alarm. Um, on the board you can see there is a few resistors packed into here. That's what happens with the alarm systems. Basically every line is terminated with a resistor, and blah blah blah. I don't know too much, but I know that usually when the guys install an alarm, they'll put a whole bunch of resistors in random places to basically terminate. That basically says that prevents the line to a sensor from being cut, because the alarm system knows that there is a resistance at the end, so it knows that the end device or sensor is working and it's there. If you were to cut it off, it would detect the change in the resistance and it would set it off as well. So that's what they do. Anyways, on the whole thing, it's a very small and maybe 4 or 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters square board. There is a little micro switch that was for a tamper evidence. So if you were to tamper with the PIR sensor on the wall, and you would basically depress this switch, which normally when the cover is on is pressed all the time, and yet again you would set off the alarm. There's a couple of jumpers, poles, and I'm not sure what that did. 25 and 15 kg, I've got no idea what that did. Okay. There's another one here. You can basically switch on or off LED, so sometimes you may want to see the LED blinking as a deterrent, and sometimes you may want this to be completely invisible, so you would switch off the LED with a jumper, and then it stays well, doesn't attract attention to itself. On the back there's a whole bunch of passives and some specific chip. Here is another chip that is I don't know, 4 legs, so that's a bit unusual. I'm not sure what it is, I haven't looked it up, but it's probably specific to this contraption, something to do with alarms. What's interesting to note is that this little chip over here in the 8-pin surface mount package is a 78L05, so it's a 5-volt linear regulator, which is interesting, so I'll keep that one. I haven't actually seen one of those in a package like this, so hey, okay, something different. But on the business end of this, there is this. So this is the pyroelectric sensor. So this is what detects the infrared. There is a soft silicone cover on this. I'm not sure for the reasons why. The sensor itself has got 3 pins. So one is ground. There's one here. One here, this one. So this is ground, and there is 2 pins that go straight directly into the chip. And there is also I think it's a cap. Yeah, it's a surface mount cap capacitor across those 2 two pins on the pyroelectric sensor, and another cap from one of the legs to the ground. So that must be something to do with the configuration, how this whole thing works. But what I'm getting at is this. So I want to get this guy out of there and open up the can. It's quite a decent size can. It's got maybe 5-6 millimeters tall and about 8 millimeters wide. So I want to get this open and see what's behind the little glass window. I've never seen one inside, so that should be mildly interesting. I've mounted the board in the vise, and I need to get this guy desoldered out of its board. Now, before I do, there was a piece of sticker on the back of it. I don't want this to start smoking when I put iron on it, so I'm gonna try to get this off with a little bit of acetone. It usually does the trick. Acetone is great stuff. If you haven't got it, get it. It's really useful to have. Worth noting is that normal nail polish remover doesn't do it, because now they've started diluting it with other miscellaneous stuff. If you want the good stuff, so 100% acetone, what you're looking for is the cheapest possible gel nails polish remover. This is just 100% acetone, so this does the trick on any sort of glue, epoxy, anything that's stuck on somewhere. It just does really the magic. This has got 3 pins and it sits quite closely to the board, so probably the best approach to get this out would be a hot air gun and just warm up the whole PCB with the legs and the solder on it, and that will just come out. Now, I haven't got a hot air gun, so I'm going to do the next best thing. So because the holes are through plated, and because this is probably lead-free solder as well, it's normally a pain in the backside to get this out of the board. So a good approach is just to get more leaded solder and warm up the whole area. Just get a blob large enough to more or less cover all the pins, and as you're covering all of them, it should be somewhat straightforward to get the guy out of that. There we go. Easy. Okay, can put the board away. So the whole thing was, I'm not sure whether that was for shielding or whether that was for electrical contact or whatnot, but it's got solder mask left off underneath the sensor, and this sort of stripy pattern underneath. Not exactly sure what was the reason for that, but anyways. And that's how the guy looks like after the extraction. So yeah, a little can with a window, 3 legs, and that's all there is to it. So my aim today is open the can, which is welded around the whole perimeter around it. So what I'm going to try, I'm gonna think of a way to get this knife in a way that's somewhat intact in terms of the contents of it. So I want to see what's inside and want to have a look at the the window, which is made out of glass that puts through, lets only infrared through. Not exactly sure what type of glass is it, what not, but yeah, that will be interesting to see the actual sensor inside. I presume it will be somewhat like a camera sensor, but a lot simpler. Maybe like a photodiode. Anyways, let's see what we can come up with. Okay, so this is what I come up with. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier, so what I thought was I'm going to mount this in a drill and just put a file or something against it in order to get this cut around on the perimeter nicely. But the chuck at this, when it's this wide, in order to fit this into its grip, it goes too far back inside, and this is basically too short to it doesn't stick out. So what I have to do is put some elbow grease and manual labor into this and get this somehow manually opened. Now, it did cross my mind to use a Dremel on this, but it's kinda late and I don't want to wake anyone up. The Dremel is a bit noisy. Okay. There we go. That came off relatively easy. It was just a bit noisy. But anyways, that's the sensor. So we've got the window, and inside, a surprise, it's not what I expected at all. So what we've got here, focus. Okay, we've got some sort of window that's meant to not let through any visible light, just infrared only. And underneath what we've got, it's a surprise. It's some kind of a hybrid module. So you can see the ceramic base with more components on them. So there's a tiny resistor here, 103, so 10k. I think that's 103, maybe 102, 1k. Anyways, a resistor, and this looks on a first glance like a capacitor, and this is the business end. So this is what actually measures the infrared. So what's on top of this? Hold on, I need a slightly better holder for it, so one moment. Okay, that's much better. So it's at least it's stable. I put it in the vise. Should have thought of that straight away. But anyways, yeah, as I thought, there's a resistor here, a cap here, and this strange thing, structure on the top, which has got those two little shapes on there. This was, I broke this by accident in mishandling it. So it appears to be brittle, very thin. Oh, that just jumped somewhere. Anyways, oops. Okay, so I just put a little bit of pressure on that little wafer structure thing on top of it, and that whole thing literally popped off. Bear with me, I've got a piece over here so I can maybe lay it down. There we go. So there was a piece of something on here, and there is something here. This actually looks to me like a transistor on the first glance. Yeah, I think it is, you know. So yeah, there is a transistor resistor and a cap, and the little plate that I've just destroyed by trying to come off forcefully. But this thing was really brittle. I was barely touching and it just falls apart. So no wonder this whole thing is in such a. Oh, there you go. You can see that slightest touch actually makes it fall apart and whatnot. So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't expect to see that in a PIR sensor. This is the window that looks out. I wonder what that is made out of. To normal light it's completely opaque. Anyways, if you were ever wondering what's inside the pyroelectric sensor, now you know. So there's a couple of components, an active component, that plate which makes some electrons jump and causes some sort of spontaneous emission of something when any infrared waves get to it, and transistor, probably the signal is so weak on the actual plate that they need a transistor straight on it to amplify the signal just a little bit, so it doesn't get lost in the noise when it comes out of the can. And that's it. Yeah, so I'll go and look up a little bit on how those sensors work, and maybe I'll find out more about them. But it was interesting to have a look what's inside one of them. So yeah, a quick video. If you enjoyed it, oops, I'm wiggling the camera all the time. So if you enjoyed the video, please do click like or subscribe, and that's all for this one. Take care.